we recommend, but maybe OpenOMS can tell later on a little bit on other hardware, because that was also a big driver on his side to try it out with other hardware boards to use the Raspiblitz with. But it's based kind of the most tested version is based on the Raspberry Pi. At the moment, it's a Raspberry Pi 4. We started in the project with Raspberry Pi 3. It still runs on a Raspberry Pi 3, but you maybe don't get all the features out there because the Raspberry Pi 3 is a kind of limited board in processing power, and also with the USB 2 ports, you have some speed trade-offs. But now with the Raspberry Pi 4, we're quite happy with the setup we have from the power side. So what this little computer delivers us to really run your own node and also run some feature software on top. And what I think the most people recognize about the Raspiblitz is that it's using a screen on top. So it's a screen head that you really plug on the pins of the Raspberry Pi board. And people always like this because it helps you during the setup with just simple things like, what is my IP, my local network? For a lot of people, it's a little bit hard to get into your router, find your device, find the IP, and even those tricks like putting a local DNS thing like Blitz local or something. We saw this on other projects. It doesn't work all the time. So having just a screen there that just tells you, hey, this is your IP, and just use this SSH command to set it up, and then it takes you from there. So that's at least, I think, from the optics, it's the most recognizable thing. It can run also without an LCD screen, but it's kind for the standard setup. It's recommended. And the screen is also a touch screen, so it has some basic interactions you can do. Don't expect that you will completely be able to drive this device over touchscreen. I think for this touchscreen is too low resolution for that. But for some basic kind of situations, like just powering it off, for example, so that you know it's powered down safely, even if you're maybe not able to log in at this moment or something like this. This is something is definitely possible with this touchscreen, and it also adds a lot of kind of nice features from the UX, and I think we hope to utilize this more in the future.
I love the screen. That's exactly like, because speaking as like I think that trips people up about Raspiblitz or just Raspberry Pis in general is like how do I use this computer? Like, where do I plug my monitor in? Like that's a very basic question that comes up. So I love the screen idea. I didn't even know you could do that. Plug one in right into the board. It looks really cool.
Yeah, personally, when I was seeing like the screen that exactly fits on top, and you just put it there and you stick it together, I always liked this form factor. It's the cheap form factor. We have other form factors. There are other cases you can use. I can show maybe later on. I have to switch screens here, but there are other casings options you have. But this is the kind of setup that comes. That's how it looks like when you buy all the simple parts on Amazon. And really, the screen was the point where we're leading, because always we have a dead box there that's just sitting there on your desk, and just really gives some life to it. You see all the statistics here. You see if it's running, or you see if it's not running, if your channels are down. All this quick information you get with this little screen. So it's really, really something that I love, and a lot of people out there really, really, really can reflect on that.
Yep.
Let me see, what do we have in the hardware setup? So it's important to have a good power supply, because you're driving an SSD here, and also you plug it, you power it through the USB port. So this was also a lesson we did over our tinkering time, that stable power is very important. Otherwise, it could happen that data corruptions are happening on your hard drive. So we put a lot of testing in there to find the right things. We have a shopping list on our GitHub that we definitely recommend those parts that are on this shopping list, because those are the kind of tested ones. And now people like to use stuff they have lying around, but always this comes with a risk that maybe some things are not that nice. So, and from the cooling side, you can maybe not see it correctly here, but there is Raspberry Pi 4 gets quite hot, and there needs to some way to keep it a little bit cold. We experimented in the beginning with a shim fan, so have a really a rotating fan there. Didn't work out quite good. In the end, we had more support problems later on. Maybe OpenOMS want to quickly jump in and comment on the shim fan and on the cooling, because you really figured out a lot of stuff there.
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of experimentation with it. But shim fan in itself, it's an efficient thing. You put it on the GPIO pins, these little bare pins which are on the Raspberry Pi board, and it's powered from there, and it is also controlled over from there. So there is like a little Python script which can control it, but we also, since we are, and it's a shim because it's just a little board which goes on the pins, and then we can put the LCD on top physically. But the problem is that it is interfering. So the control mechanism of the fan itself does interfere with the screen, and then it caused issues in terms of the screen. We found out the screen is flashing in some instances. It didn't happen with all, but then we found the software which caused it. We removed that, and then we found that it causes all kind of freezing issues. So basically, yeah, scrap that idea. Although people were started to report that it is a moving part, right? So it breaks. It is also cost like 10, 15 euros or dollars, and the passive cooling, which has been tested with the firmware updates of the Raspberry Pi 4, which initially was running very hot, but then it's significantly improved. Like I'm speaking about like 10, 15 degrees of improvement when pushed hard. Now just a single block of like kind of aluminium heatsink, which covers the whole board, does the job. So it's a more stable setup without any moving parts, and more reliable.
Yeah, under the screen, there's really one big cooling part, like aluminium. So you don't see it correctly there, but here on the picture. But I think that's the best thing we see right now. It has enough cooling. You don't have this noise of a fan, because people reported, oh, it's get loud after some time. So it's a quiet box again. And I think now with the firmware fixes, we are now good on the temperature side. So this is the version we have right now to recommend. And this is and trying out all these different hardware options. This is really I think the power of a community we see especially on our GitHub. For example, if you look here, you can see about 1,000 people almost start this project. So a lot of people looked at least into it and liked it and tried it out. And a lot of people forked it, were working on it. And we have 70 contributors on the project. So this is really the power of community, even when it comes to trying out different hardware options. And we kind of settled for the setup you see right here, right now. So then we feel quite comfortable. If you buy them all together on Amazon, you're about 235 euros. That round about $270 US dollars. That's the kind of lowest entry point, but you can also save some bucks if you go for a lower SSD or something. But still, you can still buy it with build it with a Raspberry Pi 3 if you want. Okay. Let's quickly give you some overview. As I was telling you, and when you start it up and set it up, you flash the SD card, you put it in there, and then it tells you to SSH in. That's maybe not completely normal for everybody, because most people maybe not on this terminal like hacky kind of way. But normally we have a short guide where you find it on Windows, where you find it on OS X for Mac. So how to open up a terminal, and then you just type the little command that you see on the screen, and then you log in, and you will be guided through the complete setup with those kind of menus style. You can see like the dialog boxes to run you through the complete setup process. So you don't have to be a Linux CLA as a terminal guy to really do it completely. So you can really start with very low tech skills, but you have to be kind of technical interested at least. Then you control it like over this kind of menus. So you can see a little bit here once you have set it up, you come to this kind of main menu. You can see here that you have it helps you a little bit to fund your node, to connect to a peer, to open up a channel. And then you can send and receive stuff like normal Lightning things. You can connect a mobile wallet to it. You can give it a name. You can change the passwords, of course. And important, you can cache out. You can get overviews over your channels, and of course turn it off. There's even some more features now, like extra subscription service we're adding for the next version that's coming up very soon. So there's a lot of stuff you can run over here, but that's not the end. So if you really want to go into your web UI more management, there are apps you can install, like RTL or Thunderhub, that gives you a complete, in the web browser, a complete website to manage your node and to do it. There's a lot of other apps that do it that way. So just to remember, at the moment, the Raspiblitz setup works over SSH, so over this terminal, but it kind of picks you up with all those kind of dialog boxes. And once it is running, you can activate a more comfortable way to manage your node. So, for example, if you look at RTL, then it looks a little bit like this one. It's still an older version. RTL is still already evolved from here to a much nicer design. But just to give you a picture, like what you can see, like all the options, and you have like a little bit more like over the browser. So, and for the coming in the version 1.6 that's already out in a release candidate, so we kind of finishing this at the moment, you also have the possibility to have Thunderhub as an alternative dashboard kind of for your node, and you can do all the Lightning stuff with that. But of course, there's also other stuff you can install, like a Bitcoin RPC Explorer. It's then have your own block Explorer running on your own node, and all those kind of features. And then for a future version, we prepared a lot of stuff now with the 1.6 for that, but we go in step by step to this. We also want to have a web UI, so for the complete setup process in the future. But we want to go really step by step to this, to not hurry it, and really when we feel it's ready. I think we decided so far that it's best that we'll use the Tor browser for connecting to the node in the beginning, and also the Raspiblitz. At the moment, when you set it up, you have to choose if you want to have ClearNet or run it from the beginning behind Tor. I think we will switch to a kind of a more Tor by default setup for the future. That's also kind of takeaway here. Just a quick overview, what kind of extra apps you get when you have the Raspiblitz. First of all, yeah, sure, you can activate Tor, and that's getting more and more the default we're going to. You can install an Electrum server, it's the Rust implementation, Elect RS, that enables you to connect your Electrum wallet to your Raspiblitz and use your hardware wallets and have really your own Electrum server, and don't spread any information out to, or leak any information out to the outside. Then there is the BTC Pay server is there. You can install, and we make it now more easy to have it reachable from the outside. There is this BTC RPC Explorer there, where you really have those the block explorer you can have running on your own node. This is the LNbits that trying to make quick the idea. LNbits is also web UI and allows you to cut your wallet into smaller accounts, and then have plugins running on those accounts and make interesting things with this. Maybe I will show some examples there, even where we can go into onboarding people in your local community, or have people, or even onboarding merchants, and have a kind of I buy Bitcoin there from my merchants and onboard them on the same time. So this could be an interesting on-ramp situation there also. Then we have a Spectre desktop that's also a web UI that helps you to make kind of multi-sig setups with different hardware wallets. There's the Trezor, Ledger, Coldcard, and the Spectre do-it-yourself hardware wallet, and you can combine them kind of all to manage your wallets and have features from there. There are some more command line tools like LND Manage or Loop or the Faraday, the Balance of Satoshi. These are kind of old tools that try to help you a little bit more detail with your node management from different perspectives. Loop helps you, of course, with swapping, and is supported with RTL, so it works nicely together. From on-chain and off-chain, like swaps, so it's good for merchants, or if you want to have a good inbound liquidity from the beginning. And there's the JoinMarket edition we have. So maybe I think the next slide is even about Thunderhub. OpenArms. Yes. Do you want to go into Thunderhub, or just directly jump into JoinMarket there?
Well, I think I just give a couple of words, because I've been on having some questions about what like RTL is. I mean, and Thunderhub is very much similar approach to kind of managing a Lightning node to what the Lightning interface is. So both are basically a web interface which you open in a browser, and you can click through, and instead of typing comments in the command line, you can see these settings and numbers in kind of nice graphics on your screen. And this makes it so you don't need to basically interact with LND directly anymore. You just open up your browser and you can open a channel, close a channel, send payments, receive payments. And with Thunderhub, I mean, RTL has very nice functions as well, like an integrated loop in and out thing, which can do submarine swaps, and also like rebalancing channels and things like that. I mean, these kind of things might end up abstracted away completely at some point, but they are not yet. So if you are using ND or any kind of Lightning implementation, the channel management is still manual. And I mean, that's what we do. Kind of node operators have these kind of tasks, which do interest some people, and some are not keen on this. But certainly these graphical interfaces add a lot to kind of the ease of use. And then Thunderhub is a newcomer in terms of started recently, but iterating very, very quickly, and it's looking very nice. So it has all kind of views on channel management and information, and also in this upper right corner there is some stats function where it can even give you recommendations on how to set your fees on your channels, or are your peers down a lot, so you might want to close the channels maybe, or what kind of traffic you are having on each channel.
That's awesome. Let me, what I love about what you guys are doing, let me ask a question real fast. Like, what I love about what you guys are doing is you're collecting all these different great projects into one area where I can start to interact with them, rather than, because tell me if I'm correct on this. If without me coming to, your guys' node project, I would have to go to each one of these individual GitHubs. Well, number one, I'd have to know that this was a thing. And then I'd have to go to each one of these GitHubs and I'd have to read about what they do. And then I'd have to install the software straight from the GitHub, right? So that's, I want to help people understand that's what Raspiblitz and these guys are solving, is they're bringing you all these apps. So there's a hardware element where they're showing you, the first screen was they're showing you all the hardware that you need to build this computer for yourself. And then what their software does is it collects all, because Bitcoin has grown so much. There's so many people working on different angles of this all the time, every day. And so what their team does is they collect all these apps for you and put it into a little bit easier explanation to understand, use this to do this, use this to do this. So that's what's cool about each of these little, that's been a big thing that I've learned through this node series. And so I think that's awesome.
Just quickly to jump in there, this is exactly the spirit you can see from the Lightning Hack days and from the hack sprints. And so the idea was, this is why we started the kind of idea of building this node, or having a node there at the events, so that people can experiment with this and try the ideas and software they're building to install it there, and so that everybody else has the hardware ready to just kind of test it out, give feedback, to push those projects further. And they're on Raspiblitz, so everybody's invited to just contribute their config script for their service. In the beginning, it can be just on the terminal for really hard experimental, but when more and more it matures, it can get more and more into the dialog boxes to have a one-click install, that it integrates with the backups setup that we have, so that the data of this project is also kind of secured and restored on an update, and all those little things can then develop step by step. And it was always a great thing, and this is why we had it from the beginning on the hack sprint, to really have this one experimenting box. So this is why I'm telling, we come a little bit more from the tinkering and geeky side.
Mm-hmm.
But we try to move it, push it step by step, even into more product kind of, even for non.
And you're helping users become a little bit more tinkering and testers also, because a lot of what I'm realizing is a lot of Bitcoin users, we're used to using clean software that's so packaged for us and all the way delivered to us. And so what all of these, what Raspiblitz is doing is you don't need to know how to go download all these different things from all these different GitHubs. Go just climb over the little humps that they're helping you get over, and they're bringing you more to you, so you can. I love it, because it's both sides are meeting together in the middle. We're bringing both sides together. We're bringing developers together, and we're teaching users how to be good open source software users also.
Yeah, right. And also give early feedback in testing. So a lot of people, when they develop a little bit in their own sphere, it's very helpful to get a lot early on people trying it out, having it running, give you a real-time experience. And this is what we try to build up for those people, to have a platform to work on that. So
Yep.
definitely.
Just one small point I would like to add is that what I really like about it, well, I am a person that would really tinker around and play around with some new project, and like Thunderhub, for example, but the ecospace is just developing so fast that you can't really keep up with every update and what are the procedures and so on. And that's where this open source spirit comes together, and many people contribute so that you are kept up to date with the latest patches and security fixes and best practices for configuration, and just a joint effort so that everybody is running a better and more secure node. And yeah, so you don't have to, you're not on your own kind of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe from the architectural side, so I think compared with other nodes, at least some had the idea to Docker to put everything into Docker containers and just to plug them together a bit. The Raspiblitz doesn't have this Docker concept, so we separate a little bit into separate users, so that of course there are some security constraints. But if you're an admin user on the system and you want to try something out, you have everything kind of on your fingertips there, completely to manipulate and to play with it. If you're the admin, it's your machine. So you can really, if you want, you can really go deep into every detail there and connect everything on a very, very kind of low level situation. And you don't have this not just those big blocks that you put together and then you kind of limited in what you can tinker on. So yeah.
Yes.
Open up.
So
Open
yeah,
up.
just to say that basically I do think of Raspiblitz and my other projects as well. Like I have this Bitcoin tutorials page or the Lightning node management thing where I give comments. So they are manual. They're more like the Raspberry Bolt. But the Raspiblitz I think of as it is an interactive tutorial for people to teach them how to do things, and don't be afraid when they see a wall of code running, because that is actually beautiful, and you want to see that things are happening rather than having it all abstracted because you are just looking at a web browser and there is some magic happening on your computer, because that is not controlled. This is not open source. There is no point of the code being seen by peers if you have no idea of what is given to you, right? So we try to expose as much as the inner workings of the node as possible, and also this makes it easy for people to contribute or just customize or change things as they like. And then if we find it useful, or I mean, if anyone finds these changes useful, then they go to the GitHub, they make a pull request, and then we can make it available for everyone else.
Yeah, that's really cool. It feels like you guys are striking a really nice balance between bringing all these apps to users and getting it all in front of them, but not hiding everything, like still providing visibility into what's going on. So if they want to, understand a little bit more, then that's all accessible to them. The details are not completely hidden. That's cool.
Yeah, and that we try to keep this goal, because even when we now more and more introduce maybe a web UI for setup, you will still have the SSH setup there. So you can start with a little bit more better UX in kind of setup kind of way. But if you want to go deep down and you want to have this journey, it's all there, and all the SSH menus will be still there. All the scripts then are still there to play around with and then try it out. So yeah, so this is definitely something we try to keep up.
That's awesome. And a quick note, so we're getting some questions that are coming in through the chat, and that's excellent. If you're tuning in on YouTube right now, please drop us your questions. We want to keep this is a meetup. We want to keep this interactive. So let us know what you're curious about. Question is there an ETA for version 1.6? Yeah, so when I looked at the Raspiblitz site, it seems like 1.5 is kind of what's available for shipping, and some of the features that we're talking about here are 1.6. What's the state of things there on the version?
Yeah, normally we wanted to have the 1.6 already out, But then we saw on the because LND was releasing, then we were waiting for LND release 0.10.2, and then there was already 10 also 0.3. But then we realized there was something with the binary packaging, and we wanted to wait until this is cool. So it was a little bit a showstopper on one side. So we a little bit on a delay for this week, but we used this time now to also work on the Let's Encrypt part that we maybe show later, and Frankie can tell you a little bit on that. So we use the time to put a little bit more into the package now, and maybe to push it to a level for the 1.6. We even can put a little bit more into that. So hopefully when we see the LND issue resolved, and we have by the end of the week, maybe at the beginning of next week, we will try to put together a new release candidate 3 to have a kind of a last kind of testing setup before the final release, and hopefully not long from there we have a final 1.6 there.
Very cool. And one more quick question, kind of about the feature set we were talking about. You mentioned that a CoinJoin implementation is already there. You guys have JoinMarket. Duffman TP asks, are you guys working on improving JoinMarket? I'm guessing the nature of that question means kind of either the way in which it's installed or usable on your platform. And maybe we can expand broadly to like, are you looking at other CoinJoin implementations potentially someday to add on, or what are the plans on the CoinJoin front?
OpenOps?
Yes, and it's not the right way to put it that we are improving JoinMarket, because JoinMarket is getting very heavily developed by very experienced professional developers, namely mostly Adam Gibson, Waxwing, and Chris Belcher. So it's kind of, I wouldn't be able to go up to that level. What I've done, or what we are adding to this, that again, this kind of package, the automated installation, so that you don't need to go to the GitHub and copy paste the comments, which is not many, but at least basically it's just a click away to install it. And then there is this Joininbox project, which is now available for the Raspiblitz, so it can be installed anytime if you go on the GitHub with one line. Or
do you see the screen? Because I have to have the screen on for that.
Yes, I do see the Joininbox kind of screenshots.
That's cool. And it looks like that is what he was asking about, by the way. He says he was asking about the UI of JoinMarket. So cool.
So this is kind of a UI. I mean, JoinMarket has a GUI, which is kind of a Qt GUI, which is so you're able to coin join from there and run a Tumblr and pay with CoinJoin kind of thing. So it's all the special features of JoinMarket, which no other CoinJoin implementation does at the moment, that you cannot CoinJoin arbitrary amounts, right? And also you can use it in a way that you're not creating any kind of change outputs, which can then be a problem being merged together and things like that. So I mean, JoinMarket is very much different from like Wasabi and the Whirlpool as well, and also need to say that it is there since 2015, being continuously developed. So there's so many layers and so many little nuances of its workings that it's actually, it can be used in a way that it is very, very difficult to kind of track. But also, it's being so flexible and kind of freely configurable. You can do a lot of things. So you can also not use it very well, but you can use it very cheaply, for example. And you can also make some sets with it, like like we are speaking about. You can make some money from routing on the Lightning Network. This is more about like kind of a geeky experience, right? You're not talking about serious money here, but yet at least. But the same kind of thing is true for JoinMarket, that you can collect some sets and improve the privacy of your coins. So back to Joininbox, what we do here is basically the same kind of approach what the Raspiblitz menu does, that you can, instead of looking up the syntax of these comments, you can go into these menus. You can go into this menu, which opens automatically when you call the kind of JoinMarket user, which is again just a comment, and then you can generate a wallet, you can pay, you can send out to an external address, so you can use these special JoinMarket features. Also the pay join implementation, which is currently working between JoinMarket and wallets, is there. And then also this being a decentralized, not having a central coordinator, you can spin up your own kind of offer book, which you can then open in the browser and just see what the market is doing, and just basically making all the options available and easily accessible for users. That's what Joininbox is. So I'm looking for any feedback on it. Also, the way it works is, as I explained before, that it's an interactive tutorial. So what it does, when you open a menu, it will always confirm what you want to do, and then will show the actual syntax of the command you would otherwise type. So you could just, next time, if you don't want to use the menu, you can just type the command, and it would be the same effect, right? So, and what is the difference from the already existing JoinMarket graphical interface, which runs on like all major operating systems? That with this, you can run this yield generator in the background, which is kind of keeping the coins mixed, and that's what earns. That is the market maker of the JoinMarket kind of this maker-taker model. So I can go a little deeper into that if that is like very new to everyone. But I mean, I've been fascinated by this thing because it's just it provides such a huge freedom. And to be honest, I do prefer working with Bitcoin or with coin joins in the command line, because I get that complete control and kind of all the little things I can set up for myself, from the fees to the the time it takes, what I like to do. So that's why my first choice is JoinMarket. And also, if I want to open a Lightning channel, I mean, eventually it will be possible to do it with a coin join. For now, I just need to do a transaction in between, but I can use the amount which I want to use for the channel. So that's very different from anything else. In terms of using other implementations, of course, I mean, the Dojo, I think, has a very good kind of way to run it on a different node. And why I would do it is that because the aim is here to keep it running, right? And then now you're stacking these hot wallets, which are connected to the internet, on the same software stack. So we had LND from the start. So you kind of managing a Lightning node, which can consist of, can hold significant funds there. Now you have the JoinMarket wallet as well, which is ready for coin join and doing this yield generator. So you've already two kind of hot wallets there. So I'm kind of a bit reluctant to put more eggs in one basket, right? In one basket. And also because there are so good implementations in terms of like the Ronin Dojo or the Nodal solutions or others, that there is no energy or kind of space to have that in here as well. But if anyone would want to contribute and then help maintaining and supporting it, then it's very welcome.
Yeah, this is something we have to say. The project is completely open to add also other implementation, but normally then from those bigger kind of apps, that then there needs to be some kind of commitment at least to keep it also to care about that. So there's always the thing like there is the smaller contributions are no problem, to just contribute something and then it's okay. But such other coin join implementations, they need a little bit care. Somebody need to commit a little bit then to have it really in a stable kind of way, and not that it's breaking after some updates or something. So yeah, open for it, but it's all depending on outside commitment.
Yeah, and I think that's an underappreciated point in open source software or building products more generally, right? Is like, it's a lot of work and considerations to really add a feature. It's not just this one time, like, script out the install of Whirlpool, script out the install of Wasabi or some other thing. It's like after that, there's so much maintenance. There's like attention you have to pay to bugs and issues that come up and compatibility issues. So I think, you know, there's something to be said for the quality over quantity approach that you all are taking.
I have no problem just from time to time updating a version number and then check, oh yeah, it's installing. Okay, it's not installing, but even the testing, like there's such a project to really go through with the new version. Is everything working in this new version here on this device? This is even a tip from the testing side. It's even sometimes hard. So mostly a lot of stuff, if it installs, that's good. And the rest of the community has a little bit to test out on the release candidates. And if we get bad feedback on something there, we maybe reverse to an old version, or maybe even have to decide to at least put it more into the background, maybe not remove it completely, but put it away from the menu stuff and do not put new users on it, and try to see if old users are jump in there to commit there and to keep the projects alive. Yeah.
Makes sense. One more question that just came in related to JoinMarket. Can you run yield generator in the background while using other features of JoinMarket, essentially like acting as a market maker?
So this is a JoinMarket specific question, as I understand. So yes. So with having JoinMarket installed on the Raspiblitz, you can run the yield generator in the background as you have an always-on node, and this is connected to, you know, the Bitcoin Core. So you need to have like a live always-on connection to Bitcoin Core as well. So that's what is needed for that. In terms of doing other things with JoinMarket while you are running a yield generator, yes, you can. But I mean, if you would be coming to use the same UTXOs which you are coin joining with, that you could run into problems. So for this reason, there is a log file implemented when the yield generator is running. That wallet is logged, so basically it can only be used easily as a read only. So you can like call the addresses, or you can see what is happening. You can see the history and things like that, but you cannot like pay out from it by default. As I said, you know, JoinMarket is very, very easy to kind of override the default settings, so you can do anything you like. But the idea is that when you are running the yield generator, if you want to pay someone, then you would stop it for that time, make the payment, or make the taker kind of coin join you want to do, and then restart it. Or you can use multiple wallets at the same time. There is no problem with that either.
Nice. Sounds good. Let's see, another question that just came in. So you mentioned always on node. You can use that term in the explanation that you were just given. Someone asked, you know, they're new to running full nodes. Does this thing always need to be on? Does it need to run 24/7? And I'll kind of preface that question by saying, also check out on the OC Bitcoin YouTube, the episode we did a few weeks back with Matt Odell and Stefan LeBert. We really got into like Bitcoin full nodes more broadly. That's one of the things we talked about, the trade-offs of having them on or off all the time, network connectivity considerations. I imagine.
Yeah, the first video goes really into like running a node versus using a node, and kind of a little bit of different language. Yeah.
But is it fair to say, like, it seems like the form factor that you all with the Raspiblitz project are delivering is just ideal. Like, this is geared towards optimizing for always being on. It's like this quiet, tiny little box that just kind of hums along and does its thing, right?
Yeah, some people even complain that the screen maybe is then too bright or something, and we maybe see if there's some options like a screensaver or something we can put on there, or you can activate maybe. But it's exactly built for that, to have a small machine that's you can build it yourself, and then you can keep it running all the time. Sure, you can turn it off for some times. Depends on your security model. Remember, channels, if you're not online with your Lightning channels, there may be some time where you have to go be up again, or you have to have some watchtower or whatever watching your back. So especially if you have a bigger setup with some channels, but generally, sure, you can turn it off. It really depends on your security model, how much funds do you have in there, and yeah, but it's built for always on. That's the idea.
Awesome.
It should be infrastructure. That's the point. It should maybe to outline this a little bit. It's the idea of having something, a self-run infrastructure. So I think there's a lot of node projects out there aiming for this. So there are a lot of people not just having it to use it for themselves. Maybe then you turn it on and off again sometimes, but having it as a really running infrastructure for friends and family, and maybe for your community out in your local area. Then it's really something you want to provide always on scenario.
Makes sense.
Rutzer, I really like your quote that you usually put here in this place, where kind of we all know nowadays that not your keys, not your coins, but thinking of a node, basically Rutzer usually say, right, not your node, not your rules, right? Because having a node running, then you are kind of enforcing which rules are applied to the validation, and that's really a nice, I think, term to keep in mind.
That is
I
good.
love that.
Yep.
Not your node, not your rules.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, this could be even, I know there's the other thing. There's a slide even where this quote is on. So I would have come to that for sure.
And, and just another shout out for that first video we did. Like, go back and watch that about just like the philosophy of why node's important and how it can benefit you. And with that in mind, keep that single sentence in mind of the not your node, not your rules.
OpenArms, maybe just a quick journey into other hardware, maybe not too long, but just to show what's out there and what you have been experimenting on.
Yeah, of course, this is as an ongoing experimentation. I mean, I run a routing node on this little SBC on the lower right corner, which is an Odroid HC1, which has, like, it's aged a bit since this is from the time of Raspberry Pi 3, where we had 1 GB of RAM. Well, this has 2, which is a great step up, and it's still enough to run all of the features. It has no screen and no HDMI or anything. So again, that's another point to make, that you don't need a screen to run the Raspiblitz project. It's just an aid, and also, I mean, it's a very nice feature to have, and it makes the setup easier. But if you are an advanced user, you're not, kind of afraid of looking up IP addresses and things like that, then it's absolutely fine. And you can hack together a remote screen and things like that, which I might even be able to, show you, because I have a couple running. Yes, so the scripts, so Raspiblitz project is a collection of scripts, basically. So you don't need to do them all manually. And most of these are made compatible to run on different CPU architecture, meaning not only the Raspberry Pi 3 or 4, but also other single board computers which are made on ARM processors, which are typically the single board computers, or even the x86 architecture, which is coming to any kind of other Intel or like AMD based processors. The minimum requirement, I would say, well, 1 GB. I would probably put it now to 2, and then we also went up with the hard drive requirements, because of basically, if we have an Electrum server and the full Bitcoin node, 500 GB is not enough anymore. So that's why, well, it is there as the desirable criteria. So other manufacturers, I mean, it's interesting because the Raspberry Pi kind of foundation, it's in the UK, it's been like manufactured partially in the UK as well, which is good, especially in these times when we have problems with supply, and it is very, very widely available and also cheap partially for this reason. But we have other things like hard kernel, which is running the Odroids, or you probably heard about the Pine 64 guys who are doing the Rock Pro 64, the Rock 64 kind of boards. So these can be all used with the Raspiblitz as well, but you will need to do a bit of kind of custom setups. In this example, in the middle, we have this screen running on this Odroid C4, which is a new board of this manufacturer. You can see it is red instead of being green like the Raspberry Pi. And also there are some other differences, but it has a stronger processor and a more powerful kind of power connector and more USB-C ports, and also has a screen which is compatible. And you can see that the Raspiblitz kind of little dialogue is already appearing here. So it is, not far to do this, and I probably, work to perfect this, but I mean, for now, I don't see it very likely to kind of switch off from the Raspberry Pi. But the other advantages, which some people do appreciate a lot, that these other boards are more open source. So they use different chipsets. There is no such things yet, unfortunately, as fully open source hardware, but there are kind of a scale of this. And these boards are more open. So from the security kind of approach, if you are using, maybe trusting it with a lot of funds, that I would go for a more open architecture than the Raspberry Pi, and that's why I'm really drawn to these kind of other hardware. And it can be, it is easy to be done. We have this manual SD card building process. So Rootsol does build the images for the Raspberry Pis, which are compatible with the 3 and 4, but the scripts and the whole project can be built on other SBCs by running that custom script, which takes more time, and you need to flash your base image yourself, and then maybe need some debugging if you are using a board which wasn't tested. But we have seen at least 5-6 other kind of computers from other manufacturers which have been running Raspberry. So it's just very interesting thing to think of it, and I can encourage everyone to do it. If anyone asks if it's possible, well, it's not the question, if it's how usually. So
the one question related to hardware that came in, is there much benefit today to going above 4 gigs of RAM? Like if you jump from 4 to 8, I don't know if you all have tested or anything, or if that's just kind of like, obviously more is better, but
gives you security for the future. So you want to use your hardware maybe for the next 2, 3, 4 years. So and you have to see what other applications come up here and maybe utilize this more. And especially if you have multiple, if you really want to run all the extra apps on the Raspiblitz, then definitely more RAM doesn't hurt. So, and if you can get, if it's not if it's worth the money to use, I would think, and always remember, you can use this Raspberry Pi for other projects if you get bored of the Raspiblitz. So it's always a good basic board to have around, and I think it's not a failed investment to even get it to 8 gigabytes.
Makes sense. Cool.
Let's see.
Solid overview of the hardware. Yeah.
Maybe some quick jump into, of course, you have a lot of software you can connect, but there's also the idea of connecting hardware, or at least other devices to your Raspiblitz. There's the mobile wallets you can connect. So there's at the moment the Zap and the Zeus wallet and the SendMany app are kind of the basic mobile wallets you can connect. We try to make this as easy as possible to you. There's even now we can show a little bit about the net setting. That's always a little bit of a problem. But there's also the idea not just connecting mobile wallets. There's also the idea for your hacking projects, because we saw on the hack sprints and on the Lightning hack days, a lot of people experimenting with devices that should accept Lightning or give out Lightning or something. There's, for example, a do-it-yourself ATM that you can connect with a Raspiblitz, or like a point-of-sale device you maybe want to connect. This is a setup we had at Room 77. Had the Blitz itself was, the merchant had it at a safe location at home or at office or wherever, and then there's in the bar there's just this dumb device that just can accept payments, and the bar staff can handle very, very easy, and it's always always available, just to pick it up, punch in the number, let people pay, something like that. So that's always very important, that the Raspiblitz tries to be your platform to connect your hardware hacking projects to that. That's a little bit the point. You think this from the last thing, we can jump a little bit over here. What's more interesting is to look at what we're saying, like this always on situation. Some users were sending me pictures like this, like on Twitter, like, look, this is my setup. I think not everybody has this kind of more pro setup, but it shows you like it's the kind of idea that you put it next to your router or in the way your router is, and then have it running there. You should connect it with a LAN cable to have a stable connection, not just have something funky going on with Wi-Fi. So the idea is that it's getting part of your home infrastructure, and yeah, and to keep it on, like it's 5 watts or something. So it's about, I don't know, 12 euros, about 15-20 US dollars a year for power. So it's really possible to run at home. But the problems you have always is that you have your router. When you run at home, you have your router, and you're usually behind a nut. So your router is shielding you from the internet outside. But this, and of course, you can connect in your local area network. You can connect your mobile wallet, for example, here to the Raspiblitz, but that doesn't make sense for a mobile wallet, right? You want to use it when you're on the go, when you're on the road. So it's always the idea how to connect it from the outside. How can I get from the public internet to my Raspiblitz, right? So so there's this, of course, if you're technical experienced, sure, there's port forwarding you can set up and all these things, and then you maybe have to use a dynamic DNS, so because your IPs may be changing, stuff like that. This was something we had early on in the Raspiblitz, so this is possible, but we got a lot of feedback from users. This is, I don't know, I don't can log into my router because I'm in a community flat, or I use the Wi-Fi of my neighbor or something like that. So there's a lot of situations where you even not possible to configure your router, and even some internet providers just give you a provider network, NAT. So there is no router that you could kind of port forward something, because they keep you for everything connection. They keep you behind the provider net. So this is not a universal solution for everybody. It's techie, and it's not possible in every situation. So what we came up with as an idea, and this was also inspired by Staticus, who was building on the Bitbox base. So to utilize Tor here, right? So because Tor has a great benefit, it gives you kind of this onion address if you run a hidden service on your Raspberry Pi. But then you can reach it from the outside. Like there are some proxy software that you can run on your mobile phone, or even the software is possible to connect to an onion address. But this is not always possible here. So because even this proxy software is sometimes too hard to set up, or even those devices, like those little hack projects, they cannot even run a Tor client software to connect to the Tor network. So this works for some situations, but it's also still not universal to do. So so we were thinking a little bit more forward, like how can, and then getting back to the idea of Staticus, like having a service out there, like an IP-to-Tor bridge that can then you connect to your Raspiblitz. You run in an anonymous way. You run here your node, but you connect to a server out there through Tor, and then this server rents out an IP and then a port address on that IP to you. So then yet your phone again can talk to your Raspiblitz wherever you are. So this is possible, and even your hack projects now just talk simple IP protocol, and that's possible. So this was our idea. We implemented in the hack days, and then thanks to Frankie, it was possible to, because normally you have to set up this IP-to-Tor server yourself. Not everybody wants to rent a server for this, or it's not that techy. So the idea was like to make it easier approachable for people, like have it a click and buy service. And we developed an IP-to-Tor shop that it's all completely open source, so everybody is able to run such a shop and rent out those servers. So but the Raspiblitz makes it now very, very easily for you to say, oh, I want my Raspiblitz easy accessible from the outside. I want to connect my mobile wallet. So it asks you, do you want to make this setup with port forwarding and stuff, or do you want to make this easy click solution and get a subscription here? And then you say, okay, I want to make the subscription. You choose the shop, you choose the bridge, you choose the deal you want to make. So it costs maybe 40 Satoshis a day or something, depends on the deal that's there. And then it just gives you this IP address, and the Raspiblitz gives you the pairing code to just pair now your mobile wallet wallet, and it will connect from wherever you are. And this is kind of a nice, I think this will make it much more easy. This will solve the problem of running your infrastructure from home, but you want to provide to the outside in an easy way that everybody can use. And even this one, and microtransactions are very nice here because we already have Lightning, so you can really make this a pay-by-day kind of subscription here. And even coming to the next step is that we now, with 1.6, we will also deliver this Let's Encrypt. This was this last kind of package we're now putting in here. This is that you will also have a Let's Encrypt possibility. So what you can do, and this enables what I would like to talk about maybe in the end a bit, the services you can offer now to your community, because people are used to browse. They have the phones, they have the mobile phones, they are used to use the web, and now you can really have a BTC Pay server. You can have an LM-Bits that runs securely in an anonymous way at your home, but you can rent out an address here that you can then give to your community, and they can use your service. And this could be a very, very interesting development here. And this fits into the vision we like to build. Maybe Frankie, do you want to talk a little bit on because you worked a lot on the IP-to-Tor shop system, and maybe tell people if they want to experiment in setting up an own shop or something. Do you want to get a little bit into details here?
Maybe just with 1 or 2 sentences. I think you covered most of this pretty well already. As you indicated, so the IP-to-Tor shop, that is completely open source. So it's currently on my GitHub page. It's a Python Django project with an API first approach that anybody who wants to run it himself, or has people who know how to do these things, how to rent an AWS VM to host either the shop or even the host doing the actual bridging, right? So anybody can do this on themselves. As you already indicated, we are intending with Fullmore to host one ourselves, so anybody can just go ahead and use it. So that's okay. And just coming back to our point of open source being awesome, this was a really small idea on one of the hack days in April, and we worked on it in April and May, and there was even somebody putting out a bounty, capital stock was the Twitter handle, and then it's just happened. And it's really, for me, it's really the full circle. It's a really neat whole picture how to make something that's really hard, having a really fully privacy enabled node at home, but being really able to connect from anywhere without any of those annoying HTTPS, TLS error messages disrupting you. That's really, really neat. I'm really a little bit proud of how we accomplished this. And yeah, looking forward to get some feedback when it's released in 1.6. And open for any questions that might have come.
Yeah, any questions out there? So on the kind of last topics?
None in the chat specific to networking, but I'll say, I mean, I think it's cool, especially with the stuff regarding the Let's Encrypt endpoint and how you can potentially separate that out in the architecture. It opens up some pretty cool possibilities. And I love that Tor not only regarding like Tor and its anonymity benefits, that's great. But the fact that it also potentially gives some convenience benefits in terms of navigating across a home network router and whatnot is really cool.
Here.
So just one important point here. You have the fullmode.org domain here. People can bring their own domain name if they want, and they can also hold their own TLS keys, of course. So we don't want to kind of sniff the traffic from anybody using this. So that's really end-to-end encryption. Yeah, that's really that's important, of course, to us. We don't want to be in that position to be able to kind of steal funds or whatever. We don't really want to avoid being subject to this.
Can't be evil.
Yeah, and this is really the nice thing about the IP-to-Tor server. Like somebody connects through Tor to you, right, and says, please please forward every traffic you get to this Tor address. Like, okay, this Tor address, I don't know who's running it, and then this person pays you in Lightning, and you don't know who pays you. You're just delivering a service, and then in very small inches, like, okay, I deliver this service now 24 hours for you. If the service is not working for you, you cancel the subscription. You maybe had a risk of losing 40 satoshis or something to try it out if the service is not delivering what you were paying for, but then you will not use the service anymore. So it's very low risk, high anon. So So I think we hope we can deliver here. And again, people are very invited here to try stuff out. Other Node projects are free or are invited, of course, also to maybe integrate something like this into their projects. So it's open source. The whole IP-to-Tor shops thing is open source. So would be nice. I'm interested to see where we can go here from here. So
good stuff.
let me quick show this. Not that, yeah, maybe maybe I tap into this this topic like where I can see, because you ask a little bit where the vision is, right? So first of all, I think the journey starts a little bit. You have this Raspiblitz for you personally, so it's for your education. You want to maybe you have to see some benefits like gaining privacy for yourself. And getting and managing your own stuff, being self-sovereign. So this is a legit thing. And then you maybe start to go into more like for friends and family. So you're providing maybe for them a good connection to the Lightning Network, shielding them a little bit on privacy issues, maybe make it easy for them on recoveries things. So there are a lot of things where you can start in your friends and families area, like providing them an Electrum server they can just use or something. So, but there's maybe even we can even maybe expand this a little bit further, like really having a Raspiblitz for your local community. And this can start, of course, with technical infrastructure. Like there's always, people like to say, I'm running a node to help the network, right? So I think this is true, especially when you, for example, in Africa or some developing countries where you just running nodes in the country and distributing the blockchain, have been an archive node, being able to deliver the blockchain. This all helps a lot. Maybe if you're in a developed country, there's Germany, for example, there's a lot of nodes around here, too much on Amazon infrastructure. So it's helping to get them out of the cloud, having it running at your home. That's good. But still, maybe just running a node, being the network in things. So maybe, so I like to people encourage a little bit, like try to think about how you can make the network more resilient. So we will try also to, if you can connect the Blockstream satellites to it or something, or mesh networks. This is all topics we're very interested in, and the Raspiblitz community is very, very welcoming you to, if you have any interest in that direction, to help out. For example, there's the space box from project in Nigeria and Africa that's been kind of built. It's already built and has a setup like for running it with solar energy. And there's this idea now to try this more, to build this more and more up for Africa. And the space box is built on the Raspiblitz. So it's just a kind of variation, and just maybe shows you that the Raspiblitz project is very open for you to build maybe your specialized project around. So if you see something very special, you're invited to use the complete project and even marketing as a startup as yourself, if you want to build on an open source platform. So this is something we see in Africa. It's very, very great to see that even the Raspiblitz is spreading over continents. So far in the US, in Africa, even I haven't heard much from Asia. Some people, but a little bit quieter there. So if you're using the Raspiblitz in Asia, please let me know. So this is something what you can do on a technical level. But I think what is also for your local community is much more on a service level or on an onboarding and education level, what you can do. And this is what we are now trying to prepare the Raspiblitz for. I think the 1.6 will already have something to experiment, and we will try to make it better than over time. There are two concepts I'd like to share quickly. The one is the Lightning vouchers. It's more like for local users' first experience, to let people experience a little bit what it means to have Bitcoin and do stuff on Lightning. And then there's, on the other side, there's the local merchant adopting, and we call it a little bit at the moment cash in the bag. Not sure if this will be the final thing, but it's a concept that's maybe quickly like to share. On the Raspiblitz, you can install the LNbits software. As I told, this is a web UI that chops up your one Raspiblitz that you're running, your one Lightning account that you're running, into smaller accounts you can share with people. They're not full Lightning nodes, but they have a kind of small API set, and there are plugins in the LNbits that deliver some benefits for that. One is that you can print vouchers. So what you can do is like, okay, I have funded my Raspiblitz Raspiblitz, and now I want to make 100 vouchers. So you get QR codes, different QR codes. You can then print them out on the on little stickers and put them on a flyer, so that explains a little bit more maybe what you're about, and you can share those flyers then in the in your local community. You can put it into post boxes. You can talk to people on meetings, on your meetups, and the idea is from those little vouchers here, they are LNURL stickers. So if people already have a Lightning wallet that supports LNURL, they can directly get those Satoshis kind of out of these vouchers into their wallets. But also, and that's the nice thing about the LNBits thing, it's also a temporary wallet. So it's a URL. And here comes the important part, because of you have a Let's Encrypt running on your Raspiblitz. So it's just a website you can serve to your local community. And this URL, if you don't have any wallet installed, it's just a URL you open and it puts you to the LNBits, and there you have just open a website that works like a web wallet, kind of, where you just then can spend directly, go to a merchant and you spend directly from the web wallet to your merchant. We tried this prototype out at the Chaos Communication Congress, so at the Bitcoin Assembly there. So we had already some test runs for this concept, and it worked quite well. You just give this piece of paper to people and say, here is some Satoshis on there. Try this here on this beer tap, and then they won't collect. Ooh, I get something for that. So at least you get people into this mood, like you can give out vouchers again. Quite remember like how great it was to give out paper wallets to people, to onboard people on the Bitcoin side. So we can do this again now in the Lightning sphere. So this is one thing. It helps people onboarding, give them their first stake in Bitcoin, even as you can do it with some Satoshis here. So this is the one part that's maybe nice for your local community.
I love that. That's really unique. And I think just the more ways to transfer Bitcoin around, the better, right? It's just more tools for the Bitcoin user tool belt, depending on their circumstances and preferences. And that's super cool.
And you really do it from your home, right? So you don't depend on some external service that can be shut down. Everybody that has a Raspiblitz running can just say, install the software, I put something that do this voucher thing, and then you just go out and you do it, right? So there's nobody that can really stop this idea because it can spread so decentral. So I hope we inspire people. And if you're interested in this, the 1.6 should be the first version where you'll be possible to experiment with it. It may not be perfect yet for that scenario, but we should be able to experiment in that direction with the 1.6. The second thing is the cash in the bag that's working on to onboard merchants, and this is based on another plugin on the LNBits. It's called TPOS. To just get the idea here, what you say is you make a sub account in your LNBits and you say, I want to create a temporary, also a web POS here, and all this web POS is a URL, right? So you just also open it in your web browser, and then you get this kind of looks like a POS system. You punch in a number, what you want to have, then you get an invoice, people pay it, and it goes to the Raspiblitz, into that LNBits account, but it's on your Raspiblitz. And what you can do is like you can have the URL simply as a QR code, right? So you can make it very easy for people with the camera, point to it, click on it, and boom, they have the temporary POS on. And this is something, and now what you can do now is you go to the shops, right? You go to a local merchant. There's some trust involved here, so it's not a completely trustless setup. But you go to a merchant you trust, and you say, "Hey, you're interested in accepting Bitcoin?" And they say, "I don't want any buy any hardware or have some investment. I don't want to do that. It's all complicated." And then we say, "Come on, no, I just have this bag here, and there's some cash in here. This is euros, sorry, but you can also do it with dollars. So just $20, for example, is in this bag here, and you have this little paper card also where you have this QR code for the temporary POS in there, that account for that shop that you created on your Raspiblitz. And on this paper, there are some simple instructions. And you say, it's no problem when somebody comes into your store, you just remember, here's this bag, right, in my register. It can be in the register, just lying there. And somebody comes in and say, I wanted to pay with Bitcoin. I saw the sticker on your thing. And then, yeah, okay, get me out and then you scan the QR code with your smartphone. Okay, now I have the temporary POS. You punch in the number, what the person has to pay for in your store. It goes your Lightning invoice. This is being paid to my Raspiblitz. I gave you this, right? But you as a merchant now take out the money out of the bag and then put it into your normal register. maybe you can see what's happening here. Like you buying in the end, like you buying this Bitcoin from this merchant at that point. So you upfront kind of fiat cash in the register. It's still yours. Like that's something you agree on with the merchant. But once somebody comes in, the person is possible to pay now with Bitcoin at this merchant, and this merchant just puts in the normal money amount as kind of the person would have given him to him into his register. The good thing here is from this moment on, there's no change in process for the merchant. There's no nothing needs to be changed in the register, not in the bill that you give back. So it's a very, very easy way to get people started. This may be not working if the merchant has a big volume. So this is not for a Lambo dealer here. So this is really for your small merchant on next to where you're living, like where we can start with $20 US and say, but then they have the sticker on the side. We accept Bitcoin over Lightning here, and and when you then now give out vouchers in your community, they know they can go to that merchant and try this shopping experience out. So you may be starting to simulate a circular economy here. It's not a complete circular economy yet, but it's a lot of education, onboarding, and that's possible. And this is all can be provided to your local community with the Raspiblitz. So running from your home. This is a little bit because you're asking where do we see visions, maybe where to go. This is I think a goal a lot of people like in the Raspiblitz community to finish this and to provide this. This is something kind of we're aiming for here.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. It seems like it potentially reduces the friction. Like when you think about integrating Bitcoin payments into brick and mortar merchants, there's traditionally been friction in certain places in that process. And this is kind of a clever way to have a different set of trade-offs there that might make certain things easier.
I think it can ease up for a lot of people because we had we heard a lot of, we try to onboard merchants and then they say, yeah, sure, I would accept Bitcoin to get maybe some people in here as marketing. So this is maybe for a lot of merchants. So they're first thinking, yeah, if I provide this, maybe a lot of more people coming in. But then they say, oh, wait, I don't want to hold this Bitcoin. Oh, I have to, if I hold this Bitcoin and sell it, where do I sell it? How do I put it in my bookkeeping? How do I put it in my register? How do I keep it safe? All those little problems. Either you maybe turn to a big company that takes care of all of this, but we don't want to maybe have it all running on big companies here. So this is, and if this involves, then people maybe get ready for a BTC Pay server in their store and all those. So you can this is an onboarding solution. This is not a final solution for everything, but it's something to get started and to onboard your local community and make the Raspiblitz you're having here more economical value to your community, and so having more power to the rest of the network because you represent a little bit apart here from your local community.
Very cool. And someone in chat asks, what's the website with the LNbits voucher info again?
Okay. I think if you Google LNbits, you should find the GitHub for that. But the voucher concept is at the moment we get the technical thing right, and after that we will provide more documentation. So if you follow the Raspiblitz project on Twitter or me at Rootsol on Twitter, we definitely will get some more detailed information. But first of all, we're now getting the technical parts ready, and then we will help you on documentation and how to set it up for your own. And very interested in your first kind of experience as feedback, what can be optimized for future versions here.
Sounds good.
Yeah, can I just, I mean, these are awesome of the high level usage. I just had a question to chat about like what the security kind of approach we are taking, and like as overall as a node, what is making it secure to use. So we're talking about that we don't have this kind of, is it okay if I spend a couple of minutes on this? I know we are kind of...
Yeah, absolutely. We've probably got about 10 more minutes left, but I do think security, like what, if any private keys are on the device, what considerations are there for users? That would be a good topic to include before we wrap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are, so basically at the moment, there are private keys in terms of you have an LND wallet and a Lightning wallet in there, which is in itself encrypted. And I mean, we have an auto unlock function with like the actual warning that you shouldn't use it if you want. I mean, it is a reckless thing to have auto unlock and anyone just switching on your node and basically have access to your funds is not a good idea. So we have just have it as an opt-in feature, but otherwise the LND wallet is encrypted, and also it is limited to its own kind of Linux users. So what we very heavily rely on the Linux access management permissions and separate users for any kind of application. So for example, if these JavaScript projects like Thunderhub or RTL, they have basically hundreds of dependencies. So if they get compromised, we have at least a layer around them in terms of they don't have super user access, so they cannot access any other files apart from what they are running with. Obviously, they need to have administration access to the Lightning Fund, but so much we can do, we do. Also, as system-wise, we have a firewall on and only open the ports which are being used. And also when the services are installed, we do close these ports back, so there is only the necessary ones are open. Things are also, we have like a fail-to-ban service, which is when you have your main password, which you can do anything with, because the user needs to have like full access. There is no point having your own machine which you cannot control. So that is a password which is access everything. But if you put it in 3 times wrongly, then it bans you for 10 minutes. So there is no way of like brute forcing it, for example. And in terms of Lightning funds, I mean, the security there is one thing about like software security. The other thing is what happens if your disk breaks. Basically, everything we do backup on the disk. So that's why you can freely change your SD card every time. So every time you change your SD card, you can just run with a clean, tested together OS, which has been, which we are working on, and it does. That's supposed to work as expected. If not, then you come to us and report the bugs and fix it, right? But
nice.
The whole system, the wallets and most of the custom settings are restored from the disk, and this part is in a separate, but in a separate directory. But it could be depending on an experimental feature when we are running with a different file system called BetterFS. It could be its own partition on the disk, which then can be mirrored into another disk or another USB drive, or like continuously in a RAID setup. But also the most important thing is the channels. So the Lightning has this special thing that if you are losing the channel states, you won't be able to recover your channels. But there is this feature called static channel backups, which is one file having the minimum kind of information for the channels to be closed by the peers. And this file is being saved in multiple locations on the disk and also on the SD card. And we have options to save it on a custom server, or it's an encrypted file, so also to upload in Dropbox. So these are like one click away features which are available and kind of security related. With the thing other than that, any wallet you're using there, let it be JoinMarket or LND, you should have your seed and back it up accordingly. So yeah, that's just some high level thoughts I wanted to kind of share on this, which came to my mind quick.
Nice. Yeah, that's great info as far as the summary of security and kind of disaster recovery considerations there.
Yeah, there is loads of documentation on that. So if you go to the WCAG FAQs, there is like very thorough kind of documentation of a lot of kind of cases when you are losing this or that and what are the options are. So try to cover this.
Cool. We got a few more minutes left. Maybe a good way to wrap. I noticed you just pulled up the page with the different kind of pre-built options there. Would love to kind of have a summary of those, let users know what the options are if they want to pull the trigger and order one of these things. And that'd be a great way to close out.
Yeah, sure. A big fun is also to build it all together from parts, and it's also, I think, from a security part. Like even if you buy them all on Amazon, maybe that's not the best way of security kind of wise. But I like the idea that you can put stuff out off the shelf and build something yourself. But that's maybe if you really maybe say, okay, I'm maybe a little bit limited and don't want to spend kind of this. I want a quick start here. Then maybe your options are those pre-built nodes we have, for example, here on the shop.fulmo.org. But again, there's a lot of other people out there that are free to also sell packaged Raspiblitzes. But the Fulmo is kind of the place where also the development of the Raspiblitzes is happening. So where you can see we have kind of the very nice thing over here, the metal case. I think this is also one more of the expensive things, but it definitely is very nice case here. I definitely recommend it. OpenOms, some background on that case.
Yes, so this has been a great project of together with a friend who is a designer, and basically this is a metal case, which is where it uses this X825 SATA USB board inside, which is tilted, so it is all put together the same way as you can see in the middle, but it has this PCB board in the bottom and tilted, so it's a very kind of stable setup, and the screen is just in an angle, so if it's on a desk, it's just facing you, and it's easier to kind of use the buttons, for example. Also, it has some security features in terms of it has a little hole on the back, which does allow you to use a can't seem to lock and just chain it down to a table, and also you cannot open it without because the power connection is from the front, and the case basically just the top slides off if you want to open it, but the actual power connection stops this happening, so you cannot really open the case without cutting through the steel to get into the disk while it's online. And the thing is, if you switch it off, then all the encryption does kick in, because you would need a password to log in, open the wallets, etc. So it's mainly an aesthetically, a superior case, I think. I mean, from the middle, right? I mean, I really like the 3D printed option as well. It's just, it's a different kind of thing, but there is some robustness to it as well.
It looks so beautiful. I mean, the touchscreen element on all of them is cool. Something about that 3D printed case aesthetically, I dig it.
Yeah, so this is the thing. There's a lot of people open to build stuff around the project, like casings or whatever. Maybe some power supplies. We're still waiting for somebody, maybe building a universal how you call it, backup power supply that you connect. So when the power goes out, you can still at the moment use a APC standard thing, but still having something more targeted to the Raspberries or something would be nice. So, but still there's a Raspberry Pi universe out there that has also options to play with. So these are kind standard options we have at the shop. And this is something maybe if people just want to get that all together package, or maybe already have the blockchain synced on there to have a quick start to set it up. This is definitely something to go, but I definitely also recommend to get the single parts on Amazon and to have the do-it-yourself experience from the ground up.
Nice. Yeah, so if there are any hardware hackers out there, you're welcome to do it yourself, but contribute designs and other ideas to the community too. Very cool. Yeah. Well, we're about out of time here. We've covered a lot of ground in this, and this has been a fantastic overview. So first of all, just thank you all three of you so much for what you're doing, what you're building. I think the stuff you're making just makes Bitcoin better. It's more options, makes the network more resilient, more decentralized. The more accessible all this stuff becomes to individuals. So Rootsall, OpenOms, Frankie, thank you guys very much for all the work that you do. Everybody tuning in, the Twitter accounts of all the guests and the project itself is in the video description. So go give everybody a follow. One more shout out as well to Bitcoin Magazine. Thanks to helping us get the word out about all these events. Hope to see anybody tuning in. I will be in LA for Bitcoin 2021, Bitcoin Magazine's event. Again, 25% off your ticket. If you don't have one yet, go and buy one with the code OCBitcoin, one word, and you'll get 25% off. It's going to be big. I think everybody's been in lockdown mode for a long time, and so there's a lot of energy that everybody kind of has pent up. And once a bunch of Bitcoiners get back together, I am looking forward to how cool it's going to be. So yeah, thank you again. And we will be, the last installment in this series of full nodes will be Ronin Dojo. We don't have an exact date and time for that yet, but we'll get that on the books soon, and follow us along on Twitter for that. If anybody out there has questions, my DMs are open, OC Bitcoin's DMs are open, DM or tag any of us here on Twitter, and we're happy to help with this kind of stuff. And we'll also be kicking up in-person events in Orange County, California again in the near future as soon as we're allowed to. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and that is it for today. Cheers, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks.